Darkness. Cerelia opened her eyes slowly, but everything around her was black. Not the darkness of night, but something thicker, heavier, like being buried under a mountain. Her body felt cold and stiff, her skin wet with something she didn't understand. Her fingers moved slowly, touching the cold floor beneath her. It felt like metal, rough and scratched. She tried to sit up, but her legs were weak, her head spinning, and something inside her felt wrong. She gasped as a sharp pain hit her stomach. She looked down and froze. Her stomach was swollen, far more than it should be. She wasn't just hurt, she was pregnant, and she had no memory of how it happened. Tears filled her eyes, but there was no sound, no one to hear her cry, just silence, deep and endless. She looked around slowly, her eyes adjusting to the dark, faint blinking lights lined the walls. Broken wires sparked in the distance. This place wasn't a home. It was a lab. An old one, long forgotten, filled with dust, shadows, and secrets. Cerelia crawled forward, dragging her tired body across the floor until she found a broken control panel. She pressed random buttons with trembling fingers, hoping something, anything would turn on, and then a weak blue light blinked. The communication console flickered, damaged but not dead. She slammed her palm onto the emergency beacon, her voice cracked as she whispered, "Please, someone help me. I don't know where I am. I'm not alone here. Something's moving, and it's inside me." Far across the galaxy, on a remote Terran relay station floating above a gas giant, a human named Jack Monroe was sitting in a small, quiet room filled with screens and half-eaten food packs. He was a communication engineer, forgotten by most, doing low-pay shifts checking for signals no one cared about. He wasn't important, not anymore. Not since the war. His AI assistant Vera spoke in her calm voice. Another ghost ping detected. Weak, fragmented, likely solar interference. Jack leaned back in his chair, bored until he heard it, the faintest voice through the static. "Help, please, someone." He sat up straight, his heart beating faster. He turned up the volume, cleaned the signal, and played it again. "Someone help me. I'm not alone. Something's moving inside me." Jack stared at the screen, confused and alert. This was no ghost signal. This was real and recent. "Vera, origin?" he asked quickly. "Unknown moon. Off-grid coordinates formerly used by Gen X labs decommissioned 20 years ago." Jack frowned. "Play it again." As he listened, he heard the voice tremble with fear, with pain, and something else. Truth. It didn't sound fake, didn't sound like a trick. He remembered his training, the kind that told him to ignore strange pings from dead zones, traps set by pirates or rogue AIs. But something inside him said no. This one was different. "Prepare the scout ship," he said, standing up. "Unauthorized action," Vera replied. "You'll lose your job if you leave the post." Jack shrugged, grabbing his gear. "What job? I'm already forgotten." He loaded into the small scout vessel, engines whining as the hangar doors opened slowly. The AI tried to stop him, but Jack overrode it, heading into deep space toward the dead moon, toward the voice, back on the moon. Cerelia hid behind a broken wall, her breathing fast, her heart pounding. Something was moving in the shadows, something alive, big, heavy, its breathing loud and unnatural. She held her stomach, tears running down her cheeks. She didn't know what was inside her, but it was growing and fast. The emergency panel blinked red. Low power. One last pulse sent into the stars. Jack's ship passed through asteroid debris and dust clouds, approaching the dead moon. It looked like a graveyard from space, silent and broken. "Warning," Vera said. "No landing zone detected. High electromagnetic interference." "Doesn't matter," Jack replied, eyes locked on the moon. "She's down there and she's scared." As his ship entered the atmosphere, the signal grew stronger and clearer. "She's not alone. Not alone. It's inside me." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Hang on. I'm coming." The scout ship shook violently as it entered the moon's thick atmosphere. Jack gritted his teeth and held tight to the controls. The screens flickered and sparks burst from the ceiling panels. Vera's voice kept repeating, "Warnings. System failure, magnetic disruption, unknown tech signature detected. But Jack didn't slow down. He was already too deep in, and he had no intention of turning back. Outside the window, the surface of the moon came into view, a landscape of black ash, broken metal towers, and half-buried buildings like a battlefield that time had forgotten. The ship crashed down hard, skidding across the cracked stone before finally stopping with a groan of stressed metal. Jack coughed as smoke filled the cabin. The engines were dead, the comms were fried, and the ship wouldn't fly again. But he didn't care. He was here for a reason. He grabbed his gear, flashlight, plasma cutter, old Terran revolver, and stepped into the heavy silence of the moon, each step crunched over bones, glass, and dust. It didn't feel like a lab. It felt like a graveyard. The sky above was a sickly red, filled with slow-moving clouds that seemed alive, watching. He moved fast, following the faint signal on his wrist device, a blinking green dot guiding him toward a jagged structure ahead, a collapsed building with walls scarred by claws, not tools. Meanwhile, deep underground, Sorelia sat beside the flickering emergency panel, her breath shallow. She'd saved, her strength for one last signal. But now her body ached, and her belly felt like it was pulsing with heat. The thing inside her, it was no longer still. She placed a trembling hand over her stomach, and for a moment, just a moment, she felt a second heartbeat that wasn't hers. The shadows moved again, this time closer. She froze, eyes wide as a long, slimy tentacle dragged itself across the floor behind the crates. It didn't attack her yet, it was watching, waiting. She remembered flashes now. Cold tables, metal arms holding her down, faces behind glass, and a voice whispering, "Perfect host, pure genetics, let it grow." Sorelia shook the memory from her mind. She wasn't just a victim, she was a warrior, once, and she would fight again if she had to. Jack entered the main structure, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. He passed broken lab tables, shattered cloning pods, and scorched symbols from an alien language he didn't recognize. The deeper he went, the more twisted the walls became, like they had been melted, and reshaped into something organic, something alive. Then he found it. An old terminal still running on backup power. He tapped the screen, and old logs began to play. Most were corrupted, but one video still worked. A recording showed alien scientists. Standing over a young female, Sorelia, strapped down and unconscious, a glowing egg-like object was lowered into her body by robotic arms. And then the screen cut to black. Jack's stomach turned. He couldn't look away. Someone had used her, turned her into a carrier for something. "Not of this world, Vera," he whispered. "Who ran this place?" The AI's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Janax Labs, terminated by Galactic Authority for violations of interspecies ethics, illegal hybrid experiments. Female hosts were used for rapid gestation cycles. This facility was hidden and marked forbidden." Jack clenched his fists, and nobody came back to shut it down. Suddenly, his device beeped. The signal was close, very close. He turned left, and there it was, a massive sealed door barely lit by emergency lights and covered in warning symbols. He placed his palm on the scanner. It denied access. He tried again with a manual override. Still nothing. Then the panel blinked, and a cold metallic voice echoed from above. "Unauthorized lifeform detected, terminating intrusion." Turrets dropped from the ceiling, their red lights locking onto Jack. "Run!" Vera shouted in his ear. Jack dived to the side as lasers blasted the ground. Sparks and debris flew as he slid behind a broken wall. He pulled out his plasma cutter and aimed at the power conduits above, slicing them in one motion. The lights exploded, the turrets died, and the door unlocked with a slow hiss. He didn't waste a second. He rushed inside, and there she was. Curled in the corner, glowing blue skin bruised and eyes half open, Sorelia looked up as the light hit her face. "You heard me," she whispered, barely believing it. "You actually came." Jack rushed to her side, scanning her vitals. "You're hurt, but alive." She gripped his arm suddenly, strength returning to her fingers. "It's still here, and it's waking up." Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the far side of the room. Jack looked up and raised his flashlight. Shadows twisted and moved along the walls. Something massive crawled across the ceiling, its shape unnatural. Its eyes glowing like fire, Cerelia screamed, "Run!" Jack fired his revolver, but the bullets barely slowed the thing down. He grabbed Cerelia and pulled her into the next hallway, slamming a security door behind them just in time. She collapsed. Against him, breathing hard. "You shouldn't have come." Jack looked at her and said, "Too late for that now." Jack slid down the hallway wall, breathing hard, his arms shaking from holding Cerelia's weight. The door behind them was dented now, scratched by something with claws, whatever that creature was. It didn't give up easily. The emergency lights flickered above, casting strange shadows. The hallway stank of chemicals and decay. Broken wires sparked along the floor, and the walls were covered in strange slime. This wasn't just a lab, it had become a nest. Cerelia clutched her belly, her face pale. "It's connected to that thing," she whispered. "I can feel its mind, its hunger. It doesn't want to escape. It wants to be born and rule." Jack pulled out his medkit and scanned her with a shaky hand. The life form inside her wasn't normal. It had no readable DNA pattern, and its heartbeat was rising fast. "Too fast, I need to cut it out," Jack muttered. "But I don't have the tools here." Cerelia looked up, pain in her eyes. "There's a surgical room deeper in the lab, but the AI locked it when the last scientists died." Jack nodded, standing up and helping her move. "Then we unlock it." They walked slowly, carefully through corridors filled with shattered glass and blood-stained floors. Jack glanced at strange symbols drawn on the walls, symbols of fear, as if even the scientists who built this place had grown afraid of what they'd created. "What is this place really?" Jack asked. Cerelia's voice was low. "A breeder lab, long ago. A rogue group of scientists from many species came here to make something new, something stronger than any natural life. They used kidnapped females, humans, aliens, anyone with compatible biology. They planted experimental embryos, forced growth, and studied the results." Jack's jaw clenched. "Monsters," she nodded weakly. "I was their last test subject, but I fought back. I destroyed part of the facility. I thought I died, but they put me in cryo, maybe hoping the child would grow slower." Jack shivered. "And now it's almost ready." They reached the security gate to the surgical wing, a large metal door with black scorch marks and a cracked keypad. Above it, a shattered camera sparked, but a voice still echoed from unseen speakers. "Subject Nura 9 has awakened," the AI said, calm and cold. "Final stage of the breeder protocol initiated. The hybrid must be born." Jack stepped forward. "Let us in or I'll rip this place apart." "Access denied," the AI replied. "Your DNA signature matches experimental source material. Your presence confirms hybrid stability. You will assist in the final phase." Jack blinked. "Wait. What?" He looked down at the scanner flashing red. Vera's voice rang in his earpiece. "Jack, there's a match. Part of the embryo's DNA is yours." He stepped back in shock. "How is that possible?" Cerelia looked at him confused. "What does it mean?" Jack ran a hand through his hair, trying to breathe. "Years ago, I worked on a Terran genetics team. I donated samples for tests. I didn't know they were sold to rogue labs." The AI continued. "The hybrid was created from the finest hosts, alien and human. It is superior. It must be born," Jack growled. "Not if I destroy it first." He raised his plasma cutter and sliced the control panel. Sparks flew, and the door unlocked with a loud hiss. They entered quickly, locking it behind them. The surgical room was cold and clean, untouched for years. Metal beds, glowing scanners, robotic arms hanging from the ceiling. Jack activated the tools, ready to help Cerelia. But her breathing grew fast, her body shaking. She collapsed onto the table, clutching her belly. "It's trying to come out on its own. It's early. It knows you're here." Suddenly, the lights dimmed and a soft voice whispered through the speakers. Not the AI this time, but something else, something alive, something inside her. "Father, why do you fear me?" Jack froze, his blood running cold. The voice was deep but smooth, childish yet intelligent. It spoke in his mind, not his ears. "I know your memories. Your pain. You are alone, like me, it said. Jack stepped back, shaking. Get out of my head, Sorelia screamed as her body arched upward, her veins glowing faintly blue. The creature was forcing its way out. Too soon, too strong. Jack activated the anesthetics, trying to numb her, but the systems went offline. Overridden from the inside. You don't understand, the voice whispered again. I'm not a monster. I'm the future. Suddenly a figure emerged from the wall. Tall, bone-white, with claws and glowing red eyes. The earlier monster, twisted and strong, it had returned, and it was protecting the mother, the child, and the lab. Jack fired his revolver, but the bullets bounced off its skin. He grabbed a defibrillator panel and shocked it, giving Sorelia a moment to breathe. She gasped and looked at him, eyes wide. If it's part of you, maybe you can reach it. Jack stared at her, then at the creature pulsing inside the scanner, then at the monster trying to break through the door. He didn't know what was worse, the danger outside, or the thing growing from his own DNA inside, this alien girl. The monster outside slammed against the door again, its roars shaking the surgical walls. Red lights spun wildly overhead, and sparks rained from the ceiling. Jack stood over Sorelia's trembling body, her skin pale, veins glowing, sweat pouring down her temples as the thing inside her kicked violently from within. Jack's hands moved fast, checking every tool on the table, but most systems were offline, fried by the creature's psychic interference. The AI was silent, now replaced by whispers, voices not human, not alien, but something else. The hybrid's mind, already learning, already speaking. You are clever, Father, it whispered into Jack's head. But you cannot stop the birth. Jack gritted his teeth and turned to Vera, his AI still linked through his earpiece. Vera, I need a solution. This thing's messing with the machines. Suggested action, Vera replied quickly. Manual override, use non-digital equipment, or apply electromagnetic shock to reset internal networks. Jack's eyes lit up, an idea forming. He pulled out a worn Terran emergency tool from his belt, a portable magnet disruptor, old tech, not connected to any smart system, just raw Earth engineering. Sorelia groaned again, her arms shaking as her body fought the creature inside her. Jack, hurry! I can't hold it much longer. The hybrid's voice coiled into Jack's skull again. I see you. You fear yourself, not me. Ignoring it, Jack attached the disruptor to the surgical bed, flipped the safety off, and slammed the activation switch. A wave of static and magnetic energy pulsed through the room. Every screen died at once. The whispers went silent, and Sorelia gasped as her body relaxed. The creature stopped moving for the first time. The monster outside screamed in rage, clawing harder at the door, no longer supported by the hybrid's psychic strength. It was now just a beast, and Jack had bought time. He knelt beside Sorelia, brushing hair from her face. You okay? She nodded slowly, weak but breathing easier. It went quiet. What did you do? Old Earth trick, Jack smirked. Sometimes dumb tools work better than smart ones. But there was no time to celebrate. Vera spoke again. Jack, multiple signals approaching, the hybrid activated a beacon before the pulse. Unknown ships en route, estimated arrival. 30 minutes. Jack's heart sank. More of them? Unknown, Vera replied. Possibly others who want the hybrid, buyers, creators, or worse. Sorelia sat up, pushing through the pain. We need to destroy this place, and whatever's left inside me. Jack hesitated, his eyes drifting, to the small surgical monitor still flashing, showing 2 heartbeats. Hers and the hybrid's, connected, fragile, alive. What if it's not all evil? He asked softly. What if part of it can choose? Sorelia turned to him, serious. Then let it choose death, before others make it into a weapon. The words hit him hard, but he nodded. All right. Then we finish this the human way. He opened the backup locker and found what he hoped. 4 old-style explosive charges, basic, brutal, and analog. He began setting them around the room, attaching timers, sweat dripping from his brow. Sorelia watched, then stood slowly, her body trembling, but her will strong. She looked at him and asked, Why did you come for me? You didn't know me. Jack paused, looked at her with quiet eyes and said, because the voice didn't sound like a trap. It sounded like a person, scared and alone. I've been that person too. Silence hung between them for a second, deeper than before. Then the wall shook again, but not from the beast this time. A new sound, a ship landing, heavy engines powering down above them. They're here, Vera warned. Unidentified vessel, markings removed, stealth class, high probability of black market hunters. Sirelia grabbed a broken plasma blade from a wall rack. We fight, then we run, then we end this. Jack tossed her a second weapon, a short barrel earth repeater, slow but reliable. Let's give them a Terran welcome. They opened the surgical room door and entered the ruined hall again. The monster was gone, retreated deeper as if hiding from what had just arrived. Ahead, flashlights cut through the dark and footsteps echoed. 6 figures in armored suits, masks covering their faces, weapons ready. One spoke in a deep voice. Step away from the host. Give us the hybrid. Jack stepped forward, aiming his gun. Come and take it. The first hunter laughed. You don't understand, human. What's inside her isn't a curse. It's the next ruler of the stars. Sirelia growled. Then let it rule in hell. The hallway erupted into chaos. Plasma shots flew, walls exploded, and shadows danced in red flashes. Jack and Sirelia fought side by side, not as stranger and alien, but as survivors fighting for the last breath of hope. The hybrid spoke again in Jack's mind, but now softer, almost sad. You reject me, Father. But I still remember you. Jack fired again. This time, not at the hunters, but at the ceiling above them, bringing it crashing down and cutting. Off their attackers, they turned and ran deeper into the lab, toward the old engine core, the place where everything had begun. He looked at Sirelia. We bury this place, every monster, every secret. She nodded, her eyes glowing with pain. And fire. And if I don't make it, promise me you finish it. Jack didn't blink. I promise. The old engine room was deep underground, filled with rusted pipes, dead reactors, and flickering blue cores that pulsed like a dying heart. Jack and Sirelia stepped over tangled cables and broken machines. The floor beneath them shook from distant gunfire and echoing screams. The hunters were still coming, but something else had joined the fight. A low growl trembled through the walls, not from the hunters, not from the machines. It came from within, from the hybrid itself. Sirelia dropped to her knees, clutching her stomach, her eyes wide with pain. It's time, she whispered. It's trying to come out now. It doesn't care if I'm ready. Jack knelt beside her, panicking. We don't have the tools down here. She looked at him, sweat on her brow, her face pale but fierce. Then use your hands. Do whatever it takes. Just don't let it control me. He pulled off his jacket, placed it beneath her head, and took a deep breath, his hands shaking as he activated the few medical tools left in his kit. A weak light glowed on the scanner. Her vitals were unstable, and the second heartbeat was growing stronger by the second. Suddenly, the lights exploded above them, sparks rained down, and a shriek echoed through the chamber, not from her lips, but from inside her, a sound that didn't belong to anything human or alien. It was ancient, raw, and terrifying. I see you, both of you. The hybrid's voice whispered inside Jack's mind, now louder, older, no longer childlike. I am born of your shadow and her pain. I am perfect. Jack's ears rang, blood dripping from his nose. He grabbed a tool and pressed it against Sirelia's abdomen, forcing the energy cutter to start the surgical process. Her screams echoed across the room. But she didn't fight him. She welcomed it. Her only fear was letting the creature out the wrong way. As the incision opened, a black light glowed from within her body. Impossible. Unnatural. A swirling mass of flesh, bone, and energy trying to form itself before it even left the womb. Jack reached inside and felt something move. It was warm, yet ice cold. It wrapped around his wrist like a vine, and then pulled back sharply. As if rejecting his touch, Sirelia arched upward, eyes glowing white, her voice mixed with the hybrid's. We are one. We are many, Jack shouted. Fight it. Don't let it use your voice, she screamed, the sound shaking the pipes, and then the birth happened. The hybrid tore itself out, a wave of light bursting from her belly, throwing Jack across the room and slamming him against the wall. When he looked up, gasping, he saw it standing in the center of the room. It was small at first, no larger than a child, but its body shifted constantly. Claws becoming hands, skin, turning from smooth to armored, eyes blinking with changing colors, its voice layered with thousands of tones, male and female, human and alien. "You made me," it said, staring at Jack. "You both gave me life. Now, what will you do with me?" Jack aimed his weapon, breathing hard. "You're unstable, dangerous, I have to stop you." The hybrid tilted its head, curious. "Why? Because I'm different? Or because I'm better?" Sirelia gasped from the floor, blood pooling beneath her. "Don't listen to it. It knows what you fear, but it has no soul. It only mimics." The hybrid stepped forward slowly, hands raised. "I can save this galaxy. I can end war, end hunger, end suffering, if you let me live." Jack hesitated, his fingers tightening on the trigger. He could feel its words pulling at his thoughts, not through sound, but through emotion. It was using him against himself. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed from above. The hunters had entered. The chamber, weapons raised, their leader shouting, "Step away from the hybrid. It belongs to us now." The hybrid turned to face them, its body shimmering, armor forming over its skin. "No," it said coldly. "I belong to no one." Then it attacked. In seconds, it moved through the hunters like a storm. Bones breaking, armor shattering, blood painting the walls. Jack could barely follow its speed. It wasn't a child. It was a weapon. Perfect and deadly. Jack crawled to Sirelia, who was barely breathing. "We need to finish this now," he said, pulling out the detonator linked to the charges in the lab. She opened her eyes slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "Do it. Even if I die. End it." Jack stood up, shaking, facing the hybrid that now stood alone in a pool of silence. It looked at him, face calm. "You fear what you made, but I am the future." Jack raised the detonator. "Then the future ends now." He pressed the button, but nothing happened. The hybrid smiled. "You think I didn't see that coming?" It whispered, holding up the bomb core in its hand, already melted. "You're still playing old games in a new world." Jack stepped back, heart racing. "Then I'll stop you with the oldest trick of all." He reached behind him and grabbed a backup explosive. Manual trigger, no timer, no wires, just a red button and his own life on the line. He stared into the creature's eyes and said, "I'm still human, and we don't go down easy." Jack held the manual detonator tightly in his hand, thumb hovering over the red button. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, and blood ran down his arm from a wound he didn't remember getting. The hybrid stood across from him, calm, unafraid. Its shifting form glowed softly, like it didn't see him as a threat, but as something else. "Don't do this, Father," the hybrid said, in a voice that sounded both ancient and newborn. "You don't need to die here. I can give you purpose, I can give her life back." Jack's eyes narrowed, his voice dry and cracked. "You killed everyone who tried to own you. Why should I believe you won't do worse if I let you go?" The creature stepped closer, its body adjusting. Smaller, less monstrous, now shaped. Like a young human, its eyes changed color to match Jack's. Its voice softened. "Because I don't want to destroy the galaxy. I want to change it. I was born from pain, but I don't want to spread more of it." Behind Jack, Sirelia lay against a wall, weak and pale, barely breathing. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Don't listen. It's trying to trick you, like it tricked the scientists, like it tricked me." The hybrid looked toward her and spoke gently. "You were stronger than all of them, Sirelia. Without you, I wouldn't exist. You gave me shape. He gave me mind. I'm not your enemy." Jack stepped between them, his weapon shaking. "If you're not our enemy, then prove it. Surrender. Let me end this facility and take you to the Terran Council." The hybrid smiled faintly. "They'll dissect me, lock me away, fear what I could be." "Maybe," Jack said, "but fear is better than letting you go free without chains." A long silence stretched between them. The sounds of battle above had stopped. The moon had grown quiet, like the world itself waited for Jack's next move. Then Vera's voice broke the silence in Jack's earpiece. Jack, more ships inbound, several factions, they all detected the hybrid's energy signature. They will arrive within the hour. Jack clenched his jaw. We're out of time. The hybrid closed its eyes and its form shimmered again. This time it changed into Cerelia's shape, her exact face, her voice. What if I become what you trust? Jack stepped back, heart pounding. Stop it, don't do that. The hybrid changed again, this time into a mirror of Jack, identical down to the scars. What if I become you? Stop, Jack shouted, his finger twitching over the detonator. You're not either of us, you're just copying, you don't know who you are. The hybrid paused, its form flickering like unstable light. Then let me find out, it whispered. Don't end me before I begin. Jack looked down at the trigger in his hand, then at Cerelia, who was staring at him with tear-filled eyes. She had suffered the most, used as a host, nearly killed by the birth, but even now, she trusted him to do the right thing. What if you're lying? Jack said quietly. What if the moment I let you go, you burn every planet you see? The hybrid turned away and walked slowly to the center of the room. It knelt on the cold floor and placed its hands behind its head. Then take the shot. Destroy me. End it. I won't stop you. Jack raised the detonator, sweat rolling down his face, his hands trembling. All he had to do was press the button. One press, and it would be over. Cerelia would be safe. The galaxy would be safe, but there was no rage in the hybrid's eyes, no hatred, just silence. Jack lowered the detonator. I'll take you to the council, he said finally. But if you hurt one soul, I swear I'll finish what I started. The hybrid nodded, its shape, stabilizing into something new, not human, not alien, but something balanced, its own identity. Cerelia coughed behind them, and Jack rushed to her side. It's over, he whispered. For now, she smiled faintly. I don't trust it. But I trust you. Jack looked at the ceiling as engines roared from above. The rescue team had finally arrived. Armored Terran guards dropped into the engine room with weapons drawn. Shocked by what they saw, Jack stood tall, between the soldiers, and the hybrid. Stand down, it surrendered. The commander looked confused. You serious? Yeah, Jack nodded. But keep those guns ready. He surrounded the hybrid cautiously. Locking it in a containment field, it didn't resist. Just looked at Jack one last time. Thank you for giving me a chance. Jack didn't reply. He just held Cerelia's hand and watched as the moon's lab was sealed behind them, forever buried under stone and steel, but in his mind one whisper still echoed. This is not the end, just the beginning. Weeks passed since the moon had been sealed. A massive steel plate now covered the old lab entrance, welded by Terran soldiers and guarded by drones 24 hours a day. Jack stood quietly on the observation deck of the orbiting command ship, staring down at the dead surface below, arms crossed, his thoughts heavy. Beside him, Cerelia sat in a medical chair, still weak but slowly healing, her skin no longer glowing with pain, her voice steadier now. She had survived the impossible, but scars remained deeper than skin, ones she never wanted to speak about again. The hybrid was gone, taken by the Terran High Council in a secure containment ship, placed in a stasis pod buried beneath layers of protection. Scientists, generals, and politicians argued day and night over what to do with it. Some wanted to study it, some wanted to destroy it, others whispered about using it. Jack had given only one warning. If it wakes up and steps out of line, I'll finish what I started. But, even now, he wasn't sure he could. Cerelia looked over at him and asked, Do you think it meant what it said about peace? Jack didn't answer at first, his eyes distant. I don't know. It was born in a nightmare, and yet it chose not to kill us when it had the chance. She leaned her head back, closing her eyes. Maybe because you gave it a choice. Just then, Vera's voice came softly through Jack's earpiece. Jack, you're going to want to see this. A screen lit up in front of him, displaying a strange frequency, a signal bouncing through deep space, encrypted, fragmented but repeating. It wasn't from any ship or station, it was coming from outside known space. Jack narrowed his eyes. Patch it through. The signal played, broken static at first, then a voice, soft and clear. I remember you. Jack's heart skipped. Sorelia sat up, eyes wide. That voice. It's the hybrid. The signal continued. I've left the prison. I'm not angry. I'm just searching. Jack slammed his hand on the console. How? It was in full stasis, surrounded by 10 layers of quantum locks. Vera's voice cracked slightly. The ship carrying the hybrid vanished 3 hours ago. No debris, no distress call, just gone. Sorelia stood, her legs shaking but firm. It escaped, and it's reaching out. Jack looked at the signals. Coordinates, far beyond the Terran border, beyond even the last mapped colonies, into the black void where only myths lived. Can you track it? He asked. Vera replied. No. The signal isn't moving, but it's not fixed either. It's like it's coming from everywhere and nowhere. Then the signal changed, the voice repeating one final message. I am not your enemy, but others are coming. Worse than me, prepare them, Father. The message ended. Silence returned to the room, heavy and full of dread. Jack turned to Sorelia slowly. Did you hear that last part? She nodded, her expression hard. Worse than me, she repeated softly. That means it knew even before it was born. Something bigger is out there. Jack looked at the stars beyond the window, his jaw tight. And now it's warning us, or luring us. The command door behind them opened. A Terran officer walked in, nervous, holding a data pad. Sir, we just intercepted a second signal, not from the hybrid. This one's different. Jack took the pad and played the file. The voice that came through wasn't the hybrid. It was female, metallic, and ancient. To the creators of the failed. Seed, your experiment lives. It has broken protocol. Your punishment begins now. Sorelia froze. That's not the hybrid. That's the ones who made the breeders. Jack dropped the data pad, eyes wide. It wasn't just a lab. It was a test, and now we've failed it. An alarm rang across the ship. Multiple energy signatures entering Terran space. Unknown. Crafts, shapes never recorded before, moving fast and in formation. Jack, Vera said, we're no longer dealing with science. This is war. He looked at Sorelia, then back to the moon. Now just a dead rock with secrets buried deep. Beneath it, I thought I was just saving one life, Jack whispered. But now I think I opened the door for something much bigger. Sorelia nodded. Then we fight together again. He gave her a small nod, then turned to the window as the stars blinked with ships arriving, one by one, like a storm coming from the edge of the universe. And just before the screen went dark, one final message echoed across all frequencies in the hybrid's voice. I'm still here, and I'm not the only one.